morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on the Wildcat Way Show. I'm Kari E. Valance.
And I'm Kendale. Welcome to the newly dropped episode of the Wildcat Way Show, a show which we hope encourages and inspires all who are watching on our YouTube and listening to us on our podcast.
Now, the Wildcat Way Show will drop a new episode every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. We're going to discuss current events and topics impacting us and our communities and how we are intentionally trying to stay positive through all aspects of our lives. And today we're going to talk about mental health and mindfulness. And before we kind of get into how we work on our own mental health, and I just wanted to share a few stats that I think are very important, especially as young adults. We need to know these things and know the early warning signs in people around us and in children, because a lot of times your mental health stems from things that happened in your younger age. So according to the National Institute of Mental Health Disorders, an estimated 26% of Americans aged 18 and older, so that's 1 in 4 adults, suffers from a diagnosable mental disorder in a given year. Isn't that mind-blowing?
Wow.
So 1 in 4 people, if we had 2 more of us, and one of them would have some sort of, clinical diagnosable depression or anxiety or OCD or one of those things. And a lot of times people can be living with that and be completely maybe not unaware, like they know something's a little different, they're not always feeling so fulfilled, but they haven't gotten it diagnosed and really looked at by a doctor. So it's very important to do things like that. So approximately 9.5% of American adults will suffer from a depressive illness. That includes major depression, bipolar disorder each year. That's a lot. Wow. I mean, if you had a group of 100 people, that's almost 10% of them. Women are nearly twice as likely to suffer from major depression than men. However, men and women are equally likely to develop bipolar disorder. And I think that's really interesting because apparently bipolar disorder affects approximately 2.6% of Americans, and that age for onset is one of an older age. You're in your 20s before you're actually diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
Wow.
And which is, you can kind of live a long part of your life relatively normal. Do you know what I mean? And then when you hit your young 20s, which is a huge, coming of age experience for most young adults, all of a sudden their brain changes and they become feeling a lot different. So I just think those are some really, really important stats that we needed to talk about and get out there so people know there's actual clinical diagnosis for things like this, and there's things that people need to be mindful about. If you see any type of people that are displaying any panic issues or anxiety issues, because apparently panic disorder typically develops in late adolescence or early adulthood, and the first symptoms of OCD come across whenever you're in childhood or early adulthood. So those are all things that we kind of be on the lookout for with our young people in our campus, because they are prime age for these types of developments like that.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And one of the things that stuck out to me is that people live with this and may not even know it, right? So it becomes normal. So it takes me back to a story with myself. So I have real bad allergies, and my sinuses are like, I would say, the worst. So I take allergy shots every week.
Right.
Growing up, I've been dealing with this all of my life. And so my dad, we had to cut grass, we had to do stuff out in the yard and different things like that. And my dad would think I was trying to get out of work because my eyes would swell up and I would runny nose. So I got married, and my wife was like, Kendale, look, I love you, but you got to get something checked. Right? Because this is not normal.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm thinking that it's normal because I've lived with it all of my life. This is what I've been dealing with. I know every season when it happened. And so she said, no, let's go to an ear, nose, and throat doctor. Something I've never been exposed to. So I go get this test done, go get my allergies checked. And they said, man, how have you been living with this? So he asked me to breathe in. He said, Kendale, breathe in. And I said, I breathe in. He said, man, you okay? I said, no. He said, yeah, I'm fine. He said, Kendale, you're so stopped up that you can't even smell on your left side.
Oh my God.
But I have been living with it for so long. And the same thing is common with mental health, and people think, oh, this is just normal. Like, you need to go get some help. It's okay to get help. It's okay to talk to people whenever you have an issue. And that just takes me back to my childhood of knowing that I struggled with this all my life. And didn't get help until I was in my 20s. Right. And the same thing people struggle when it comes to mental health.
Exactly, and I think that it's so important to know that there's not a stigma with anything like that, with asking for help.
Man.
I feel like a lot of young people maybe sometimes don't feel comfortable within their own skin to do that yet. And we want you to know that there are so many people available to you to be able to talk to, even if it's just us, and you want to talk to us first, and then we can, you know, be that lifeline that can help you in any way that we can and kind of guide you to the right people to be able to be treated.
Yeah, because so we live in an individualistic society where we're mostly focused on ourselves.
Sure.
And we don't like to tell people our problem. We don't like to let people know what we're going through.
Sure.
But the reality is that, like, that's not the design. That's not the way we were created. We were created for community. We were created to be with one another.
Absolutely.
And so you have to be a safe place for people. You have to learn to trust people and let them know you're struggling.
Right.
Let them know you're going through stuff. And that stigma that comes with something is wrong with me, but don't tell anybody because it makes me look crazy.
Sure.
It makes something wrong with me. That's not real. That's just all in our heads, right?
Absolutely.
And I think if you open up and have a conversation with people, you would see that more people are just like you than not.
Absolutely. I dealt with a little bit of, I have two young small children, and with my son, who's now 4, I was blessed and able to stay home with him for the first 9 months of his life, so I was a stay-at-home mom. And I was so excited to do that, and that was our plan. And then after about 4 or 5 months, I started going a little stir crazy, and I missed having conversations instead of just, singing our ABCs all day and things like that. And I started to see within myself that I wasn't happy within myself. I wasn't happy for my son. I wasn't happy for my husband. I was trying to justify it by saying, well, I'm doing the laundry today, so I'm going to fold clothes while the baby naps. And then I would tell my husband, I did the laundry, and he was like, okay, that's great. Is the baby okay? That's your primary thing. Don't worry about the laundry, But I was trying to make it seem like I was still doing normal things. And looking back, and finally when he turned 9 months old, I was like, listen, I need to get back into the workforce. I need to have adult communication and get dressed every day, do something with myself other than this. I was very blessed to be able to do that, and I'm so proud of the women who are able to do that and sustain that lifestyle for a long time.
But it's not for everybody.
It is not for everybody, and I think it's so important as a mother and as a new mom. A lot of times you're questioning what to do and what's the right thing to do, and the only right thing to do is to do the best for yourself and for your child, and to keep you all healthy and happy. So it's really important that you're able to talk about things like that. I finally had to just tell my husband and tell my mom, I need to go back to work, and they were both like, then great, go, you're able to, it's totally fine, And then I was like, okay, I just thought that this was something that was meant for me to do. You know what I mean? Like, you have a preconceived notion of what you think should happen. And so then I literally, after the first week of being back to work, I was completely my normal self again. I felt so much better, like a wave of relief rushed off over me.
And so it's interesting because you caught that.
I did,
and that comes with self-awareness.
Sure.
Being aware of yourself, knowing who you are. And I think it's all about the happiness that you feel within that helps you in every other area of your life. Like, my wife was home for a couple of years with my son, and she's not a homebody. And so I was like, you gonna go back to work? You want to go back to work? She was like, yeah, I'm not ready. I'm not meant to stay home. And so I'm trying to push for her to be home because I'm thinking that this is what she wants. But she's worked all of her life. She's been working since she was 15 years old. So you can't just automatically take somebody out of their normal environment that they're used to and think that they're supposed to respond the same. So especially as parents, we have a lot of work to do. From a personal perspective, mentally, physically, all of that stuff matters when it comes to taking care of our families.
And the thing is, we can't do well from our families unless we are well ourselves. You know what I mean? Like, we are the adults, we're the role models of this family unit. So we have to be mentally focused and strong. Of course, there are days when we break down. That happens, and that's a normal part of life. So, but then you come back together, you let it all go, and then come back together, and you're strong for your children.
And when you say that, you talk about, I think about it like you can't pour from an empty cup, right? Right, so anytime you've been on a plane, if anybody's ever flown on a plane before, the first thing they tell you to do whenever they're going through their safety checks is if we have an emergency, that oxygen mask drop, you put that on for yourself first.
True.
Because you can't help anybody if you're dying.
Exactly.
Right? And I think so often we don't do enough for ourselves. We don't exercise. We don't meditate. We don't do the things that's going to help us be better.
Right.
And then we're trying to pour from an empty cup, and that leaves us drained, leaves us depressed, leaves us discouraged. So I'm always encouraging people, hey, be selfish.
Right.
Take care of you first, not from a selfish perspective, but I'm saying you need to be full before you can ever help anybody else.
Yeah, I think it's so important for everyone to have like their happy place.
Exactly.
Right? Whether that be, the gym or the treadmill or just taking a walk outside. I love to be outside and walking. That is really where I find fulfillment every day.
Yeah.
Everyone needs that. If it's just taking 20 minutes and reading your book that you want to read, if it's just meditating for a few minutes, if it is taking a relaxing bath in the evening, which I know so many people that do that, anything like that that gives you your mindfulness and your inner peace every day is what will help fulfill all your other duties and responsibilities.
That's it, and I think it's in your daily routine, right? So every morning, and you've teased me about this before.
It's not teasing. I'm so impressed and proud that you did it. I wish that I was as strong as you.
And so I have people that hold me accountable, right? So if I miss a workout, I got some guys and some gals that's going to text me, hey man, where were you yesterday or this morning? So I gotta go to the gym.
Sure, yeah.
5:30 in the morning, 4 days a week, I go to the gym.
Right.
And I have to do this early enough, not because I'm just this early person, it's because once my kids get up, my day is rolling. Right. So you gotta get up and take care of yourself. Because I used to try to do this at 6 o'clock, at 7 o'clock, and they're up and I missed that. My whole day is shot, almost seems like. So I do a daily devotion, I read my Bible, I do different things like that. It helps me be a better person for them.
Yeah.
And my son may come in the room sometimes whenever I'm doing my devotion in the office. I say, son, Daddy not finished yet.
Right.
Like, I'm coming to get you.
Time.
I love you. I'm going to play with you. We're going to shoot basketball.
Right.
But I need to do this for me so that I can be better for you.
Absolutely.
And he understands.
And I think that's a great lesson for them to see, right? I think our children are obviously so important to us, and their minds are like little sponges. They are absorbing everything that we're doing. So if they see us doing something and making it a part of our daily routine, which we know is so important for young children, and we are still fulfilling that as adults, and they see us that we have a daily routine and we're doing something every day, no matter what, and that it makes us happy and it brings us joy and it makes us feel fulfilled, that's going to then, as they're growing up and they're figuring out what their routines are and they're implementing their own strategies, that's going to make them want to do something like that as well. Because
I think we overextend ourselves all the time by giving and doing for other people before we ever do for ourselves.
Right.
And I'm telling you, as a teenager, as a young adult, that could be depressing. Right, when you're giving so much because you want to say yes to everybody, you want to be there for everybody, but you're only one person. You can't save the world. You can't do this all by yourself.
Right.
So you have to take care of you first, and I think that's where it stems from, right? In addition to some of the childhood things that people have seen growing up too.
Right, and I think that especially as kids, they want that sense of comfort and stability. You know what I mean? And you can't be the stable person if you're kind of veering off into a depressive state because you have, now some small things of depression happen if, something happens with your job or there's a tragedy or a loss in the family or you're going through, some natural disaster or something. It's okay, of course, to be upset, but you need to be able to work through that, right? And to try to work to the light at the end of the tunnel and not let it drag you down because it becomes sort of like a drain, swirling in the shower. And once you get down too far, you're never going to be able to pull yourself back up.
So, Kari, let me ask you this. What helps you whenever your mental well-being or your mental health, what do you do? What are some things?
I'm a huge reader. I love to just give myself over to books. I've always been, ever since I was a young child, I would just sit in my closet sometimes and read books. So that's a big thing. I always have a book on my nightstand next to my bed. I do love to work out. I'm an evening workout person, okay? So my daughter, we're very blessed. My daughter goes to bed at 6 p.m. every day. My baby, and she sleeps all night long. We have to wake her up at 7 o'clock in the morning.
How old is she?
She's 1.5.
So after this, I'm gonna have you call my mom, my wife, right, and say, because I got a 2-year-old that will not sleep all night, and she goes to sleep at 9 o'clock.
Oh gosh! So my son was the same way. Ever since they've both been 2 months old, They've been sleeping all through the night. We've been we're very blessed. Yeah, that's why I'm always just so happy. I know. We sleep great. But my son, we've allowed him to stay up till 8. And he's 4, so he sleeps from 8 until about 7 the next morning. So, but usually when I put my daughter to bed, my husband gives my son a bath at 6 o'clock, and then we let him relax in the bath and play for a little while. So I have about 30 to 45 minutes, and that's my exercise time before we eat dinner. I work out almost every day. I try to, you know what I mean? But and I try to make sure that I have time for myself a little bit every day. And even if it's not by myself, sometimes last night my son and I had family movie night, just me and him. We popped some popcorn.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we watched the Penguins movie, Happy Feet. It was wonderful, and I was super happy the whole time. So that gave me a good sense of inner peace.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And now that you say that, like, it makes me think about, my wife, she works and take care of the kids too. And I'm trying to figure out ways that I can help her, right?
A massage. A massage would be great. Every woman likes to get a massage, so that would be fantastic. But I mean, date nights. Like, I'm a big proponent of my husband and I going on dates as often as we can. You know, that's very important to us. With 2 kids, we just got to get a babysitter and just fork over the money and get dressed and feel good and just focus on us. With the kids around a lot, it's hard to take the time to really just have that connection. So I think even if he asks me 3 days prior, then for the next 3 days, that's all I'm thinking about. I'm excited, so then my mental health is good because I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. That whole day I'm excited, and for 3 days after I'm excited. So that's a whole week of excitement just for that one date night.
And so I think it's critical too, like I'm even explaining to my son early, right? So my wife and I went out of town for a weekend because we didn't get a chance to celebrate our anniversary in April. We didn't get a chance to celebrate her birthday. We didn't get a chance to celebrate Mother's Day or Father's Day because of all of this pandemic. And I told her, when everything opens back up, we're going to get a hotel, you and I by ourselves. We're going to go out to eat. We're going to eat what we want. We're going to do what we want. And my son was like, Daddy, well, why can't we come? I said, listen, your mom and daddy have to go off together so that they could be better for you whenever we get back, because we got to spend time together as husband and wife. And he was like, okay, so this is not for kids. I said, no, this trip is not for kids. This is for your mom and dad, for us to go and enjoy one another, rekindle the marriage, whatever that looks like, so that we can come back and be better for you and your sister.
Absolutely. And one of the things, we go to visit my mom a lot, who lives in New Orleans, and my son, if I tell him on a Wednesday, he cannot wait for Saturday to come, and we're going to Maddie's house. And so we're going this weekend, he cannot wait. That gets him excited. I'm going to school today, then 2 more nights, and I'm going to Maddie's house. And I'm like, yes, sir, we're going to Maddie's. Like, he cannot wait. So just, I think any type of way that you're building excitement into your life, even if it's the small things, go and visit family, go and do something with your friends if you're able to. Sticking to that routine and that commitment of working out with your group that you work out with. I am blessed and lucky enough. I look forward to coming to work every day. It's never a struggle for me. Like, I just love this atmosphere here at PRCC, and I love my coworkers, and every day I walk in and we spend the first 10 minutes just discussing what our plan is and talking about anything that happened yesterday, and then we just get to work, and our work is fun and our work is fulfilling, and we get to be involved with the students every day. So I'm very blessed and happy with this, and whenever I feel myself start to slip, I just make sure to get my mind in check with whatever way is best for me.
And I think you brought up a huge point, right? The fulfillment piece. Doing what makes you happy.
Right.
Doing what you know that's helping you on the inside, right? More than just on the outside. And I think that's what PRCC affords us, this opportunity to be able to do something we love, enjoy doing, and working with people that we enjoy working with. So that's one of the biggest things for me too. Like, working out is a fulfillment for me. And I could tell whenever I'm off if I don't do it.
Sure.
Right? Because it used to be like a love-hate relationship. I couldn't stand going to the gym because it's painful. You leave sore. But it was like a sense of accomplishment. Every time you get up and do what you say you want to do, or you're going to do, man, it just makes your mind that much free, that much more released. So I think that's what helps me a lot, working out. And like I mentioned, reading my Bible and different things like that.
And then don't you find if you press snooze on your alarm and you don't get up, then for the whole rest of the day, man, you're like, why didn't I just do it? Why did like I said, I'm an evening worker, and sometimes I'm just like, maybe I'll just go ahead and eat and, I'll just relax. And then I'm like, no, because after 30 minutes of doing it, I'll feel so much better and I'll feel accomplished and I'll feel good of myself and good for myself. You know what I mean? And instead you'll have that like weight on you that you just skipped it. And then sometimes skipping it once can lead into 2 days in a row, and that's where you start kind of tunneling down, and that's where you don't want to go.
And so when you think about that, like the sense of accomplishment is rewarding, right?
Yeah.
And everybody wants that feeling.
Right.
And that means you got to do some stuff that makes you uncomfortable in order to get to that place, right?
Right.
Because, and you mentioned the books, like, so I'm an avid reader too. Like I got into reading a few years ago. And what reading has done for me, it has given me another perspective other than my own. Because anybody that's alone with their own thoughts,
sure, yeah,
that could be draining,
could be dangerous,
that could be depressing,
yeah,
that could be misery,
right?
Because in your own little world, you can think that, man, my life is just so bad.
I
got it so bad. And I be telling these young kids, 18, 19 years old, like, man, you're 18, 19 years old.
Let's make sure your mic's still working. It's okay. A little bit of. Nope, pretty good.
Yeah, so 18 or 19 years old, like you got a lot of life to see.
Right. It is not so bad.
Don't think that you have to have it all figured out today.
Right.
But if you're only talking to 18 and 19-year-old kids, just like you, you think that everybody's life is just bad, bad. So reading has given me an outlet. Reading has given me, okay, Kendale, if you want to be mentored by some of these people, you may not know them, but you can know them through the books.
Sure,
right?
Yeah.
So if it's somebody that you see, that you aspire to be like, or you like what they're doing, you're inspired by them, go check it out. Go read their books.
Right.
And so you get a chance to choose that. Another point that I almost forgot about, when you say we don't do with the thing that, like you said, you get home, you're like, well, I could just not work out today.
Right.
I believe, and I always tell myself this, excuses lead to regret.
Sure, that's exactly what I meant, yeah.
Whenever I make excuses for myself, I regret it later.
Instantly.
Because all I'm doing is making myself feel comfortable about something that I know I should be doing.
Right.
But I don't do it, then later you're like, man, I should have done it.
I know, that's the worst. And then it starts, like I said, from one day of giving up, it continues on and on and on, and you just start to spiral.
And the good habit piece, right? The longer you do something, the harder it is to quit.
Sure.
Good or bad.
Yeah.
Right? The more you depress, the more you do the things that are not helping you mentally, the harder it is to quit those things.
Right.
But for working out now, for meditating, for reading my Bible, for reading books, that stuff is a part of my life now. So I feel off if I don't do it, which means that I got to get rid of this feeling and get me back to what I normally do.
Sure, absolutely.
Are you ready to join the fastest growing community college in Mississippi? Pearl River Community College is ready for you. With improvements at each of our 4 locations in Poplarville, Hattiesburg, Waveland, and online, securing your future has never been more exciting. 42 career and technical programs and academic transfer options allow you to build a bright future at the river. When faced with adversity, Wildcats never quit. Visit prcc.edu to learn more.
So another topic that we want to talk about is mindfulness. And mindfulness really is just being aware of your presence in your body and your mind and your day-to-day life and where you are at the moment. And also being mindful to other people's presence and maybe their background and history, and to be mindful of your actions and interactions with those people.
Right, so whenever I think about mindfulness, I believe we all have the capacity to think crazy things. Right? Stuff that we probably shouldn't think about.
Right.
Stuff that's probably not healthy for us to think about. And what I always do is I catch myself.
Right.
I be like, hey man, where did that dumb thought come from? What made you think about that?
Right.
Because if you're not careful about what you're thinking about, then I always say think about what you think about. Right? And it sounds crazy, but it's that simple. Think about the things that you think about. Like most of us think the worst about ourselves.
Right.
Think the worst about situations. Think the worst about opportunities. I'm not good enough. I can't do this. Those type of thoughts can lead you to not being good enough.
Exactly.
Lead you to not doing what you could do. Right. So that's being mindful, being present in the moment, and just being where you are. Right. Not overreacting, not allowing things in your mind to make you think that your life is just that bad. And people always talk about dreams.
Right.
Like I hear people say, oh, I had a bad dream, and they want to try to interpret it. And I say, well, you wake up and you make your dreams come true.
True.
Right? So you can think about that scary stuff that happened in your dreams and
Right.
you be terrified to even try. But the reality is that you get up every day and you got a choice to make.
Sure.
To make your dream become a reality.
Right. I think that sometimes people misinterpret what mindfulness could really be. Like mindfulness doesn't really mean politeness.
Right.
You're not minding someone by saying like yes ma'am or no ma'am. This is what we mean is being aware of things, right? Being aware of other people's things as well. I mean, you have to know when you're walking into a certain situation, you know, kind of read the room and see what's happening. That's a part of being mindful, just kind of checking yourself in the situation and telling yourself, this is okay, everything's gonna go well, instead of being bogged up in your thoughts and in your mind and all up in your feelings, just letting it proceed the way it should.
And you hit on something, you said feelings, like, and this is why I'm a principle-centered person, because my feelings fluctuate.
Sure.
They go up and down.
Right.
And so I may be in the moment and I'm excited, but that don't necessarily mean that that's always good because you're excited. And then it don't mean that it's bad that you're not excited.
True.
But so many people are driven by their feelings that they can't really get out of how they feel and do what they need to do in order to get where they want to be, right? So that's why you got to be mindful of how you're feeling and what you're thinking about.
And I think that sometimes people can't differentiate the two at all. You know, they're like, well, I feel this way. Well, that doesn't mean that's exactly right and what's centered within your mind.
Yeah, because you can feel like doing something wrong.
Right, exactly.
And it feels right.
It feels right at the time, but then if your gut's telling you one thing and your mind is just dreaming about something totally different, you have to have the self-awareness to be mindful to go with the gut feeling rather than just to go with what feels good in the moment. And that's where a lot of people falter. And I mean, I'm guilty. I've done that, but then I've learned my lesson. I've suffered the repercussions of those actions, and I've learned from it. And that's all we're trying to express here. We just want the young people who are watching and listening, don't just go with what feels good. Be mindful of the right choice in every situation.
Yeah, because I'm telling you, and I always go back to this, it's always good to have a conversation with somebody. Right? Because I don't care how good it feels. And I go here and I say this because young people in relationships.
Sure, yeah.
18, 19-year-old.
Right, it's way of life.
And I love it. I love that, but stuff could feel right.
Right, yeah.
But you got to look at the trade-off too. Right? You could be jeopardizing your education, your future, just because of a feeling today.
Sure, right.
And I always try to caution people with that. I don't try to make them make their decisions for them, but man, here's some information, and now you get a chance to make a choice with the information that I'm laying out there to you, because I know so many people in their 30s, in their 40s that look back over their lives and be like, man, I was chasing a good feeling, but I didn't do what I should have done. And you live with the regret later, because I was one of those people. Right? Not even from a relationship perspective, but just some of the living that I did. It felt good at the time. And I did it. And now I have to try, man, I can't believe I...
I mean, it feels good to be out with your friends till 2 in the morning, especially when you're 8, 19, 20, 21. But then it doesn't feel so good to be late to your 9 a.m. class the next day. And you're sitting there like, man, I wish I would have been in bed and studying for my tests instead. We can look back and say that we learned our lessons. You don't want to be the one making a mistake at the time, though. So we're just trying to tell you, just because it feels good in the moment doesn't mean that you shouldn't have been mindful in the moment and said, you know what, we've had enough fun. It's like a lot of people always say, nothing good happens after midnight. You shouldn't be out doing that. Just go home, let your head hit the bed, and you're good to go.
And so, Kari, I just finished my degree.
Right.
And I'm talking about it was a relief. I enjoyed it. But I look back on my life and I wonder, what if you were focused like you should have been?
Right. Yeah.
And so, while I try not to live in the regret, the thoughts are still there, right? Because I understand it still serves its purpose, and there's purpose in me getting my education now. It's just that if you're 18 and 19 years old, don't do what I did. Don't make the mistakes I made. You can do something different, right? Now, if your path leads you to that and that happens for you, then okay, fine. But why would you choose that for yourself?
Correct.
Right? When you know 2 o'clock, I got a test at 8 a.m. Because I did some of that dumb stuff. Like, I got a class at 8 o'clock and I know I got a test. And I just choose
I'm just going to stay out.
I'm just
having
partying
too much fun.
because everybody else is doing it.
Exactly.
Right? But everybody else don't have your goals. Everybody else don't want to go where you're going.
Right.
So you have to be careful. I'm talking about it was a lot of people that whenever I made a decision to change the way I was living, my life changed, my friends changed, my circles changed.
Right.
And I'm okay with that because I'm mindful of where I want to be. I'm mindful where I am.
Right.
And I'm mindful of the people that I'm surrounded around.
Well, that's a good point too that you bring up about being mindful about the people that you surround yourself with. And I know that's something that we've talked about before. It is so important to be mindful of the people that you have your day-to-day interactions with, because that kind of makes you feel the way they feel a lot of the times. You know, I mean, you want to surround yourself with the company that you want to keep. You know, I want to be with people who are uplifting and inspiring and motivating. They motivate me, I motivate them. We become the best that we can be as a team.
Yeah.
So, and if that is your goal, which we hope that is everyone's goal in life, to be the best person, the best version of them they can be, you need to surround yourself with people that have that same mindset.
Because if you don't, you're going to be just like the people that you're around. And you could be an oddball in the wrong group, and you're going to eventually be just like them.
Right.
So I don't want to be around Debbie Downers.
Sure.
I don't want to be around people that think the world is coming apart.
Right.
Like for me, I'm like, let's get around some folks that got the right energy. So I'm always choosing the right tribe for me.
Right.
My people, the people that I love, they're uplifting, they're forward thinkers, they're not Debbie Downers, they're not looking at their life like, oh, I can't believe life is happening like this.
Right.
No, I need to get around some people that are forward thinkers that say, hey man, it's going to be okay. That can help me see better, right? Because I may need that from time to time.
Absolutely.
But how can I go into a circle of everybody's depressed, everybody's miserable, everybody mad, and I need somebody to uplift me?
Who's
and this is right. So I
Yeah.
can't. I need to feed off of the people that I'm around, and I think kids, young people, young adults need to know that at an early age. I don't care if you grew up with these people.
Sure.
I don't care if your mama, your daddy, all of these people are family and friends.
Right.
Find you some people that can encourage you, that can uplift you, that can inspire you to be the best version of yourself.
Right, and that's a scary thing, especially for young adults, to try to come to that realization. I mean, I feel like a lot of times, because I went through it as well, and a lot of times you just want to hold on to that comfort of the people that you've known for so long instead of allowing yourself to let go and embrace who you've become, right? I think sometimes people misinterpret when people say, well, you've changed. Well, yes, I have.
I was supposed to.
Yeah, I'm quite a bit older than I was when I knew you back then. I'm a completely different person. I've grown and I've evolved, and I've been mindful of that journey this whole time. So I've kind of switched my way of thinking and viewing who I want to surround myself with. And a lot of times people aren't able to see that and to really grasp that and to take that into their mind.
And I think a lot of the reason is because we're creatures of comfort, right? We like our creature comforts. We like to be comfortable, and we don't like anything that's unfamiliar. So we run from that when it's new people, new territory, and new surroundings. But like I am okay with outgrowing people. That doesn't mean they're bad.
No.
That doesn't mean I'm better. It just that means that part of my life no longer serves me. That relationship no longer feeds me, and it's not mutual. Right? You're more draining than you are pouring in, and I have to leave that situation because I had to leave some surroundings, some people. And the draw or the pull on you is to feel guilty for growing. Feel guilty for outgrowing some people that you grew up with. But you're on campus now. Right?
You have this shot right now.
Exactly. The opportunity is here. You have to be mindful of it. You have to be conscious of what's in front of you because going back to the old way won't help you go to where you want to be in the future.
Right. That's why it's kind of scary sometimes because here on our campus, a lot of our students, when they dorm here, they leave like on Thursdays through Sundays, maybe come back Sunday evenings or Monday morning. And I just, when they're gone, we're just hoping that they're making the right decisions and they're continuing to live the Wildcat way and they're conducting themselves with pride, respect, class, and character. Because we see it every day here, how much they flourish and how happy they are and how, I can see in a lot of the kids' faces how thankful they are to be here and to have these relationships, and they're cultivating all these different relationships and getting to know all these different people that they would have never had the opportunity to do if they would not have stepped foot on this campus. And so then for them to go home for 3 or 4 days and get surrounded, hopefully I'm hoping that they're mindful enough to be able to make the decision to stay on track.
That's it.
And to make the right decisions that will be best for them.
But Kari, I can be honest, it's hard.
Right.
It's hard to do, and I believe it's almost impossible if you keep going back to the same old stuff.
True.
Right?
That's very true.
So you have to make it up in your mind when you leave this place, you go and look for better.
Right.
Right? Because to me, it's like if I unlearn something that was no longer feeding me, I don't want to go back to that way. I don't want to go back to doing the same old stuff, right? And not just young people. I see adults deal with this, right?
Absolutely.
People that are well off in their 30s and their 40s still hang around the same crowd and wonder why their lives don't get any better. I mean, I believe my life got better whenever I moved and started doing different things and got surrounded or connected to the right people.
Right.
That helped me want to be a better me.
Absolutely. No, I agree. And I think that that's important, not just for the kids, not just for the students here and the young adults, but for anyone at any age. It's never too late to make a change for your life. Like you said, you just went back to college and got your degree, and you got that, sense of fulfillment and accomplishment from that. You can do that with anything. If you join a book club, if you start going to the gym. I mean, a gym is a place where you can make instant friends that share a common goal and passion, that are working towards the same thing. So any type of, if you're feeling like you're stuck and that you're just kind of placed in one space that you don't want to be a part of anymore, and you're surrounded by the same people, or you're doing the same things day to day and it's not giving you fulfillment, it's up to you to make the decision to make some sort of change.
That's it. And so I think too, the biggest challenge that I think that I had to overcome was listening to the people that I outgrew in their comments, right?
Sure.
And because, you changed, or you think you all that now.
Right.
And I'm like, no, I don't. I just wanted something better.
Yeah.
And so that's what keeps people stuck with that same crew, that same crowd.
Right.
Because they don't want to hear the noise.
Right.
See, I got okay with hearing the noise as long as my life was getting better. And so I had to stop doing some stuff, had to start doing some new things.
Right.
And you mentioned the gym. The people that I work out with, I do life with.
Right. Yeah.
Those people they go to church with me. My family know their families. Our kids play together.
Yeah.
So those are the same people that I'm connected to every day.
Right.
The difference is that I'm gone 2 or 3 weeks at a time, and I get a lapse in that. But those people, even whenever I'm away,
they're always together.
They're always together. They're always still connecting with me, and then just checking on you, see how you doing. So that's really healthy, right?
Right.
And I'm mindful of people. I'm mindful of my surroundings. I'm mindful of my environment.
Well, it's important. Your goal in life, right? Our goal as parents is to live our lives with our husband and wives and our kids. And then throughout the day, I have to take time away from either them or from my work or what I'm doing to give to the people that want to connect with me. So then I have to make a choice, right? Like, are you one of the people that I'm able to lend out my life to?
That's it.
Or are you going to be someone who's going to take up some of my battery? You know what I mean? Like, you only have like a certain percentage of battery to get you through the day. So you don't want someone else to come along and drain a piece of your battery out if you're not going to get anything back in return from that relationship.
And so when you say that, that's so profound, because I have this rule and my wife is on board with it. My kids can't go by somebody's house and play if we don't know their parents and don't vibe with them.
Oh, I agree with that, 100%.
Right, because
we're not even at that age yet, but I know that.
So whenever you talk about the energy, when you talk about the lending your life, I have to trust that my kids are going to be safe whenever they go by your house. And I don't care. My kids are safe at my house. They got all the toys they want. They can play with them. But if your child is going, like my son comes home last year, hey, Dad, I met a friend at school and such and such, such and such. I said, okay, well, let me meet their parents. Got a chance to meet their parents, and nothing against them. Just not my kind of people.
Sure, it happens.
Not the people that I want my son to be away from me with when they're by your house. And I just don't trust the environments that they would have been in. So I am mindful of that. And the same thing is true whenever I have to disconnect from my family, my wife and my kids, and go give my energy to somebody else. I'm mindful of who I spend my time with. There's several people that hit me up and say, hey, man, can we do lunch? Can we go do this? And I look at my schedule for one. Hey, man, if my schedule is free, that's one thing. And then, what are we meeting for? What's the point? What's the purpose? Because I don't want to just hang out. I want us to be moving forward, move the needle forward in life. And some people just want to talk, so I'm open to doing that. But I'm not into draining people, and I don't want people draining me.
Exactly. I think you easily allowed to happen sometimes if you're not mindful. You can start slipping into that way of going back to your old self or leaving yourself too open.
Yeah.
So sometimes people can start taking advantage of that. And that's just not us by any means, but anyone who's feeling a little bit about a depression or feeling a little bit bad about themselves, there are people out there that will then prey on that.
Oh yeah,
And see
you.
that, yeah, and say, oh, okay, you don't feel 100% confident with yourself, so I'm going to have you on my team.
That's it.
So that way I can get you to do my bidding. And that's definitely not the type of people that you want
Exactly.
to surround yourselves with.
Yeah, so you need people in your life that you could feed and they can feed you.
Correct, yes.
Right? And if it don't work that way and it's not mutual, it's not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Every relationship that I have is mutual.
Right,
They want to be in it and I want to be in it.
right, yeah.
Otherwise, it's not worth my time or yours.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to let you use me, and I'm not going to let anybody use me.
Yeah,
I'm not going to use anybody.
And I'm not going to chase you
That's
to
it.
get you to work with me or help me or be my
To
friend.
do what you're supposed to do, right?
Right, right. I mean, as we as adults, you know, when you're a child growing up, you're friends with the kids who are in your class. You don't really get a choice in the matter.
Exactly.
You know, you're friends because of circumstance. But as you grow and mature and you become who you are, you're able to pick and choose who you want to spend your time with.
And Kari, my son is 6, and I use these life examples because this stuff is personal to me. Last year he would come home, Daddy, such and such didn't want to play with me today.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting there, hey man, you don't need him to play with you.
Right.
In order for you to have a good time,
Mm-hmm.
you go have a good time yourself. I don't want him to think that he needs to chase people
No, exactly.
in order to have a good time or
Right.
have somebody like him. Because then what happens is, and this is a topic for another show,
Mm-hmm.
you'll start feeling like, let me compromise my morals, my values,
Yes.
just so other people accept me
Which
and
is-
appreciate me. Right?
Which is just a normal part of life sometimes, especially growing up as a teenager, adolescent, young adult. I mean, it happens. There's definitely its own topic in and of itself.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, that is something that to be mindful and to be mentally healthy as a person, you have to know where your personal boundaries are and where you're willing to say, no, this is where I stop.
This is where I draw the line.
Mm-hmm.
And I say this all the time. I fought too hard
Mm-hmm.
to get to this place of peace,
Right, yeah.
to get to this place in my life with joy and happiness.
Mm-hmm.
I refuse to just give it away easy.
Absolutely.
I refuse to just let somebody take it. So if I'm going to give it away, it's going to have to be worth it.
Sure.
Right? And that's dealing with anybody. This is family included.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because
yeah.
sometimes family, this will be a topic for another show, but
We have
sometimes
so many
family
topics.
could be draining,
Yeah,
could be pulling away from you,
it's true.
could be negative, could get in the way of where you want to go in your life.
Mhm.
And for me, I don't care who it is, I fought too hard to get to this place, and I'm not letting anybody take it away.
Right. Well, I think that's a good ending point for today. You know, we really just wanted to touch on the importance of really just checking in on yourself and being aware of your mental health and being mindful of your inner peace at all times. And that's what the show is all about, because we always want to make sure that we're living the Wildcat way of pride, respect, class, and character. And you can't do that unless you're 100% good in your own head, don't you think?
That's it.
All right, well, thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page and our podcast, and be sure to follow all of our social media accounts. That's the Wildcat Way Show on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And we will thank you so much for tuning in. We'll drop a new episode Tuesday at 10 o'clock next week.